Thank you, Cathaoirleach. So I want to begin by welcoming the Labour motion here this evening. And while I don't agree with everything you said, naturally, that is the nature of I suppose, our different positions. I do think that it gives us an opportunity to highlight very important areas that do need change and do need intervention. I suppose we've been on a trajectory for a number of years now in the childcare and early years. It was the Cinderella sector for a very long time, and there was a perception of child minding rather than the real childcare professionals that are there and that have a passion for children, that do identify issues very early with children, and also are an incredible support to parents in steering them through and assisting them in new parenthood, in toilet training, in home how many things they will give advice to parents and be a great source to them because of their education and their, I suppose, the preschool regulations of 2016 brought us to a place where there was a standard of education across the entire childcare sector. And while I know I myself at the time advocated of a grandfathering aspect, because we did lose some people who wouldn't return to education but had years of experience, at the same time, by having a standard of education and input, I suppose, in the education, in the training of our childcare professionals, we afford an opportunity for universal experience for every child, regardless of where they go to a childcare service. And I think that was really important. Then we saw the introduction of the Early Childhood Care and Education, or ECHE scheme. I know from my own perspective, once my daughter applied for that, we went from over $1,200 a month of childcare cost down to $900 and odd. It made a huge difference to us financially at the time. So from that under the previous government and my own Fine Gael colleagues, we have come forward. We've seen the introduction of the National Childcare Scheme, and its previous manifestations of childcare subvention, but ensured that hard-pressed parents have had options for quite some time now. And we are increasing that trajectory. And I mean, we are at a place of record sums being put into childcare. But there is a plight going on, and there is an issue going on for childcare providers. There is no doubt about that. And these things need to be addressed. The baby places have always been a struggle. They've always been an issue, and there is a multiplicity of factors feeding into that. One, the ratios of 3 to 1, but it isn't one, because that one has to have breaks under the Organisation of Working Time Act, has to take holidays, so it's more than one. There has to be floating workers, there has to be people who can also, exactly, and one to watch the sleeping room. So the economics of the baby room are not good in and of themselves, but at the same time, in tandem with that, we have seen increased parental leave, increased supports. We have paternity leave. We have other elements that have come in here that are very, very positive and very important. So I think baby places, I would rather that we advocated for women to have longer time and have that first year with their child, or parents to have that first year with their child, rather than necessarily greater funding for baby places. But I appreciate that there is a need. There is an issue in the standardisation of the inspection criteria. There are matters which are trivial that get recorded on inspection reports as non-compliance matters, when actually there's something small that's dealt with on the day of the inspection before the inspector has even left the premises. And that is very unfair for that to go into a public document of saying non-compliance. There are other things that can be the whim of an inspector, and in my own experience of working in support, I've been a mentor with the Dublin City Childcare Committee for a long time, and gone in and been a troubleshooter with services to try and support them. But one of the things I found along the way, one instance, was a door arrangement that was perfect for 10 years suddenly got on the nerves of the same inspector that had walked past it on previous occasions, on previous years, and suddenly it became an issue. Now, we shouldn't have that, because that leaves a sense of uncertainty as to whether you're fully in compliance or you're not, and most services are very, very good in organising that. The administrative burden on services is enormous, absolutely enormous. And we either need to refine it, which I think we're on a trajectory to do that, or we need to supply more funding for administrative positions, and acknowledge that there are other things like HR matters. There are a lot of other things that also need to be dealt with. So I think that we need to, rather than that we're always funding the childcare professionals, and that's rightly so, but we also need to fund other positions within the services. I completely agree with you. One of my lines for today was, here's the breaking news. If you live in a one-bedroom apartment, you could well actually have sex, and you could well have a baby. I know, it's major news. But for some reason in our criteria for exemption, one-bedroom apartments aren't count when we're counting the numbers of 75 for 75 units are being built. One-bedrooms aren't counted as having children, and in some instances, two-bedrooms aren't counted. So for those purposes of when there is a necessity to put in a childcare service. To me, and I've been long advocating with the Minister, and I know Mr O'Gorman has as well, in removing that exemption, because it's an absolute nonsense. And here we have a way for fast provision of infrastructure that could be delivered if the obligation on developers to do that, and then we move to it would be a very quick and easy way to do it. Thank you, Chair. But thank you for the motion. I think it's important that we raise the issues, but we need to applaud, and I appreciate that you did. A huge amount is being done. Yes, to coin a phrase from your own party, a lot more needs to be done, but we're on the right direction, and we need to really celebrate that.
Thank you.